you'd like to introduce yourselves.
Yes, I'm Edwina. Edwina Davies now, Nee Jones. And this is my friend here, Gwennan.
Yeah.
Yes, Gwennan Price was Gwennan Clark.
I live in this area. I've been in this area all my life. Not in this particular house, but you can say I am within my square mile as the crow flies. Because although I was born in a little village or hamlet called Bancadaran, my parents, after they married, had gone to live in a village called Comerfyn. But being my age, 79 now, nearly 80, the custom was, of course, that the girl went home to her mother to have the baby. There was no maternity hospital or such then. So my mother went home to Bancadaran to her parents for me to be born. Back to Comerfyn until I was 2. Then we moved down to a rented cottage at Penryn Coch, which was my grandfather had a farm down there. And of course they had this rented cottage for my mother and father to live in, so that my father would be near to his work. Lived there and spent most of my primary school education at Penryn Coch, but not all of it. Moved back up here to my father's old family home. And from there, I married in 1960, moved into this house, and I've been here since.
Very nice.
So,
Gwennan?
Well, I'm 65 years old. I was born in just the other side of Bow Street, between Bow Street and Dolly. Well, I was actually born in the maternity home in Aberystwyth. We lived in the same house all my life. It was built by my great-great-grandfather. Unfortunately, we've just recently, after the death of my mother, had to sell the house, so it's gone out of the family. So I went to Rhydyr Pennau Primary School and then to Ardwyn Grammar School in Aberystwyth. I went to college in London in Golders Green, Wellgarth Nursery Training College, to be a nanny. And I was there for 2 years, but then I met my husband down at the old Bull and Bush in Golders Green, and we got married, so we lived in Wembley for a year, and then we decided to move back to Wales to start a family. So
yeah, she's had a more varied life than me, as you can see. She's had college, I haven't. The only college I've had is what they call Treveri School here, which was my primary school when I was 10 and came up there until I was 12. And it was called the Mountain Academy for some reason, and still known as the Mountain Academy until it closed a few years ago. But I wanted to be a dressmaker, or a tailoress, but there was not enough money in the family to be able to send me away to have training or to go into college. So I ended up working in a drapery shop in Aberystwyth, and that's where I was until I married. And going a bit further, I met my husband on a blind date at Penryn Coch. He worked in the Forest Commission. He was from Radnorshire, and he'd come down here and was lodging in Penryn Coch, working in the forestry around here. He used to work on the roads department. And where he was lodging, the girl from there was about my age and came to school with me, and she made the arrangement for him to meet me on a blind date. And I didn't tell my parents.
but you never looked back.
No, I never looked back. And to be honest, after we married, my father and my husband were more like brothers, and they were like father and son-in-law. Because, as I was saying, like my grandfather had a farm in Penryn Coch, and my husband-to-be then used to keep his car or his motorbike in those days at Timawr, at the garage, Timawr garage, a farm garage, and he used to help them at harvest time and everything, because he was a farmer's son himself. So gradually he worked himself in, but all I can remember is when my father found out that I'd had this blind date, been on a blind date with Sid, he said, "You're not seeing that slimy one again." walking about in his leather jacket and boots. So, but anyway, as I said, things worked out, and they were like two brothers from then on.
That's nice. You're just, can I move that? Because I can hear the clicking.
Yeah.
Can you hear the clicking?
Oh, that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could not hear the clicking.
Very faintly.
I started hearing it. I was like, oh no. But I couldn't hear it.
Take it, put it out on the stairs in the other room or something.
Right.
Oh,
Thank you.
So, yeah, sorry about that.
that's all right.
Yeah.
So do you want us to chat between each other then?
Oh,
Is
you
it,
can
or
just
what?
chat with me.
Oh, with you? Yeah.
Focus all your attention
Yeah.
on me. Yeah. So yeah, do you guys have any childhood memories that you'd like to share from, growing up in the area? Or?
Yes, well, what it is, like, I think being a child back in my time was much simpler, and to me, we had more fun than what the children of today have,
Yeah.
because the children of today, all they want to do is to be either on their mobile phones or on the computer or laptops and all this lot, which I don't have anyway. But when we were children, we made our own fun, and also I think that the parents played more with their children in our day than what they do today, and I think so anyway. But the type of things we used to play was, they came round in seasons really. You had either skipping ropes, very often in the winter, you know what I mean, and ball games where you competed to see who could play what do we call them, sets. I don't know if they still do it today, where you start off with one ball, then went to two balls, and see if you can manage three balls by hitting them onto a wall and catch them every other as you throw them, and then you do them going up, and it was called sets. Do you remember
I don't
playing?
remember playing that.
Yeah,
Used to
well,
play
and
jacks
then
in
we,
the playground.
Ah, right. And then we used to sort of bounce them, and under the right leg, under the left leg, and behind your back. They were called sets. So see how many people could do 10 of them with one ball, and do 10 with two balls, like keeping two balls in the air and all this. I can remember that was a summer game. Skipping rope, I remember mostly like
Yeah,
in
because there
winter.
were lots of songs with the skipping, wasn't
Yes,
there? When
and,
you jumped in and out.
That's right, yes. And then the hopscotch.
Hopscotch.
Yes.
I remember that.
There's, I don't know whether you youngsters know what hopscotch are,
Yeah.
but there were so many different ones of those again. One where you threw the stone to a certain number, and it was done up single, double, single, double, single, double. So then whichever one, you started with the single, that was number one, you threw your ball in there, then you had to jump over that and put your 2 feet down, 1 foot, 2 feet, 1 foot, 2 feet, turn round, come back, pick the stone up and out. Then you threw it to number 2, and of course you must not put your foot in number 2 to see how far you could go. So, but then there was another one again where there was a square, that you did it in square, where you sort of kicked the ball around, but you mustn't touch the lines. Did you play that one?
I don't remember.
And then there was also one in a circle. Again, very similar to the square, but you drew it like a snail shell in a way, that you had to go round and round and round till you came to the middle. So it was simple games like that, but everybody sort of played them. And in the house at home, well, I mean, the dartboard would be out, the rings board would be out, and then table games,
I
which are
used to
still
play
going
lots
today.
of cards with my grandfather.
Yes, the cards, that's right.
Yes, he
Yeah.
taught me a lot of card games.
Yeah.
What type of card games did he teach you?
Oh, like knockout whist, snap. We used to have Old Maid, which is probably not PC anymore. Yeah, just lots of, and then I played Pelmanism, which is like a solitaire game. Sounds a bit sad, really, but no, it was
they
was
were.
really good fun, and because we lived with my grandfather, my mother, and my sister and I, because my parents were divorced, and my father lived in Bolivia, so didn't see a lot of him. Because the story behind that was my grandfather was the first British ambassador to Bolivia, and my mother went out as his sort of consort, and because my grandmother wasn't well enough to go, and she met my father. They got married, but it didn't work out. But in a way, I think it was better for me because we got to live with my grandfather in Bow Street. Otherwise, we'd probably been sent to boarding school or something. So no, we had a very happy childhood and played a lot outside.
Yes.
I used to go down to the stream. Nobody used to bat an eyelid. You just...
Did you used to play Little House
Oh yes.
outside?
We had a little pigsty that we
Yeah, that's
converted
right.
into a
Or up
little
in the
house.
woods
Yeah.
here with us, like in the forestry wood. We would dig out a house, like, and we'd go and look for old enamel saucepans that people had
That's
thrown
right,
out into the
yes.
damp. And we used to find tins of polish, and we used to put your finger in like that with a rock. We used to polish the bottom of them to use them as chairs,
Yes.
did you?
And we used to make perfume out of
Oh, yes.
rose petals and any flower petals, really.
That's right, yeah.
Horrible concoctions. Good fun.
And find all the bits of china and glass that was about and use those like to decorate
Oh,
in
yes.
the house and all that. That was our crockery in the house. But you know, it's a pity like all that is missing today, like, isn't it?
Yeah,
You know,
it's quite
but
sad.
swings, of course, in the wood. We used to have
Oh,
swings
swings,
up
yes.
here out in the wood, like, you know, have an old rope and just hang it over the branch. And
And I was taught to knit and embroider when I was quite young.
oh, yes, definitely.
You know, they used to spend hours doing that.
Yes.
Which I don't think they do now.
Well, I think it was at your mother or your grandmother's knee that you learnt all these trades then, isn't it? You know, before, now, like a lot of the youngsters, they don't know how to knit until they go to secondary school, or even, I don't think they
If
do it
then,
in primary
yeah.
school now. You know what I mean? But you learnt it at home, like with you'd be sitting on your mother or your grandmother's knee and their hands would be round and they would show you what to do, like, and gradually you soon picked it up, you know.
Oh, that's lovely, that.
Yes, but it was lovely.
Well, of course, because when we were really small, there was no television. I can remember going to see the first television at my great aunt's house, just down the road.
How did you find that?
Well, it was a bit strange because I resented the fact that we didn't have one at home, I think. And of course it was black and white.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know, I can just remember watching Tonight was the main programme with Cliff Mitchell.
Yeah, well, it's funny, like, we didn't have a television, because I remember for the Queen's coronation, we went up, my sister and myself, to the schoolhouse, to where the headmistress lived, because her mother used to live in South Wales, but she used to come up here a lot, and they invited us over to watch the coronation on their television, tiny little black and white, you know, in the corner, and it often.
That was the
But
year I was born,
we
so I didn't
never,
see it.
we never saw, like, you know, we didn't have a television over years and years after that.
No, I mean,
Well, we didn't have electric up here.
and when we did have it, it was just BBC. We didn't have ITV or anything.
No, the electric didn't come up here, you see, until the early 1950s. The electricity came, yes.
Wow.
So, at home, like where my father's old home, they had their own generator. So they used to make electric themselves, like with like big batteries, like acid batteries, and remember a little shed. But we were lucky, like not other people didn't have it, but we were lucky in having that. But the thing is that very often, like, it didn't last the evening out, you know. It would gradually go down, dimmer and dimmer. In the end, you're in the dark.
Wow. So different to nowadays, isn't
Oh,
it?
it is. I mean, everything. The cooking is different.
Oh, of course, yes.
My
We
mother
used to have
cooked.
an old Ray-Ban in the kitchen. We used to
Yeah.
cook on.
Well, I can go back further than you went, and I can remember an old paraffin cooker.
Oh, right.
You know, with the burners underneath, and you used to move the oven to put on top of the burners, and it was paraffin. You couldn't. I don't know how my mother ever managed to. And other people that managed to cook with them, you know what I mean? You couldn't regulate them, you see.
I can remember the smell of the paraffin heaters. They
Yeah.
were, it was a strong smell, wasn't it?
Wow.
Yeah.
So you'd say you have pretty happy memories about your childhood then?
Oh, very happy.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, it might be easier for the people today, like even young married women and later life. Well, for myself now, like running water, toilet in the house and all that. We never had any of that when we were children, like, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But it was a happy time. I enjoyed it anyway.
Yes, it's very good memories.
Yes.
Okay. Gwenand, would you like to tell me a bit about why you decided to move back to Wales to start a family?
Well, because first and foremost, I am Welsh, and I'm proud of being Welsh. I speak Welsh. My grandfather was very pro-Welsh, and I just didn't want to do it in London, which is where we were living. And my husband, luckily, was quite happy to do the move, and so he started from scratch working as a gardener in what was Gagerthan, Ibers, the plant breeding station it was then.
Eiger.
Yeah, then it became Eiger, then
Yes,
Ibers, and now
yeah.
it's the university.
Yeah.
But he worked his way up, and he became the purchasing officer for 3 of the stations. So, but he wouldn't go back to London now. So, yeah. And had 2 sons, and well, one has moved back fairly locally now. He's working in Aberystwyth. And the other one is married and in Ystrad Mynach with 2 daughters down in South Wales. And he's managing the Roman Legionary Museum in Caerleon and Big Pit Museum. So, yes, that's, well, it was mainly the Welsh language, I think, that's but also it was more friendly here than
Yes. But don't you think that's something again, like that's our life, although we didn't know each other as children or as young people like that until you came to live in Penrhyncoch and your children came to the nursery school where I was then just a helper. And I don't know why our lives seem to be to run side by side.
There was sort of parallel, yes.
Yeah, because you married an Englishman, I married, well, he's supposed to be a Welshman, non-speaking Welshman. So I'm so proud of my Welsh. Had no difficulty ever in bringing the children up bilingually. Although, you know, they spoke Welsh to me, English to their father. And it's the same with Gwen.
us,
I
yeah.
had 2 boys. I had 2 girls, she had 2 boys. Like, it's funny, isn't
Yes.
it, you know? But our lives seem to be, and the same again. Sid was the same. Although he worked all over Mid Wales and North Wales with the Forestry Commission, he was quite happy to come from Radnorshire to live here, same as Dave with you.
Yeah.
And another thing again is as well, Dave liked to keep in the background, and so
Yes.
they said. You know, they were quite willing for
Oh,
us
yes,
to be
they're
the
quite-
leaders.
Yes, I think we're more sociable than
Yes, it's funny, isn't it?
our husbands.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so do you remember how you, like, the first meeting you guys had in the nursery? A
Well,
first
it was
impression?
probably when I brought David.
David to the nursery school first, isn't
Yes.
it? That's going back a few years, Granny.
And then I sort of got involved. I started helping and
Yes, and it
being
became
chairman and
or
secretary and whatever,
Yeah.
because it was all run by the parents.
Yes, there was no
Yeah.
grants or anything available then, was
No,
there?
and the
No.
education wasn't involved really. So
And the equipment we had was hardly anything. It was all bread boxes and bread crates and all that with jigsaws in them that we
yes,
that
that's
we had to
right.
carry in and out of the shed, and you know, and old rugs, whoever would give us an old carpet or anything, that's what we had on the floor. And being that it was held in the village hall, we had to carry it all out every weekend, or very often every night. We met about 3 times a week. If there was anything else on in the hall, like, you
Yes,
know.
we had to clear away.
Yeah.
I remember that now. Yes.
So when I took over as leader in 1991, I looked that up when
Oh right.
and 1974 I started, a year after the Ysgolfaethrin started. It started in 73, I started there in 74. And I was a helper, as I'm saying, to 2 different leaders up till 1991, Then I took over and finished in 19, I don't know.
So I must, yeah, well, I
And you
came in 1991.
You
then.
came in 1991, so we worked alongside each other since then.
And then I finished 5 years ago when I was 60.
And I finished 9 years ago when I was 70.
It all changed a lot over the years because
Yeah.
it became more. Well, for a start, the education came in, and we had to follow their rules and regulations.
We
And
even have Ofsted, didn't we? You
yes, we used to
Yeah.
have Ofsted inspections. Ofsted
Yeah.
as they are in Wales, and I don't know, and all the paperwork and.
The joy went out of it, didn't
And
it?
then I think part of the reason we did a role reversal for a time, didn't
Yes,
we?
we
Because
did.
because everything had to be computerized. You had to email and whatever. And Edwina doesn't like doing that, so well, she just doesn't do it. So
No, definitely not. So, no. Yes, we did. It was after Sid died from Sodley, wasn't it?
yeah,
You took over as leader and I stayed on as
that's
your
right.
helper.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
Very nice.
but it worked because I was a little bit apprehensive at first because I thought
we
she was
did it.
such a good leader.
And
that I felt it was a hard act to follow, and then to have that she wanted to stay on
Yeah.
as my helper. But it
yeah,
worked
it
very
did
well.
work, It did. It did. We didn't interfere in
No,
each
fair
other's
play.
no.
You must have been
No. You know.
to hold your tongue quite a few times. But no. And then we managed to get a lottery grant to have. It's now in a purpose-built cabin on the school grounds,
Mm.
and that came about just as I finished. So I had a term then.
Well, I came down to that site, but the cabin wasn't there then. It was we had a cabin then, didn't we?
Mm.
What do you call? I don't know what they're called.
Oh, like a mobile.
A mobile
yeah.
cabin, like. We had to go out to the village hall and we went down to the school, didn't we, for that
Yes.
for a while.
That was brilliant.
Yeah.
Wow. Should we move the camera here maybe so we can get some close-ups?
Sure.
She's gone to sleep.
So, after the nursery, what did you guys do with yourselves?
To be honest, there's been less time to do anything. I don't know where the time goes. I mean, I do have my grandson 2 days a week. Now he's 2.5, and since they moved up here, so I've had him for about a year, I suppose. I don't know. We do a lot of things. Well, you especially with the church.
Yeah, but I mean, we have done things together, as you say, like I persuaded, it was me who persuaded you, I think, to come on the parish council.
It was, yes.
There was a vacant seat on the parish council I'd been on for since the late 1970s, I think. I joined the argument on as a parish councillor. And the vacant seat came during one of the terms, and I asked when, and I said, we are short of ladies on the committee. I said, there's only myself on it now. The one that was on it had passed away, and with me, and I said, we could do with another lady, don't you feel like coming? And I said, the representative is needed from Penryn-Coch, not from the top area. So we tried to keep it even keel, and you did, didn't you?
Yes, it was
Yes.
quite daunting because we had to have an election. But
Yes, but it went on all right. What else have we done together?
well, we do the art group,
Yes, now.
and well, you were on the Petrassa, the playing fields, weren't you?
Yes, before you.
Before me.
Before you, yeah. Paths seem to be crossing like that. But one thing I do remember, where might be you wouldn't know that, Gwennan, but I knew of your home in Penryn-Coch, Dolmai Sailor,
Oh, that's
when
right.
I was
yes.
a child. Because my mother, it was owned then, it was a holiday home, a holiday house, and it was owned by people from the pottery called Mr. and Mrs. Boddington. And my mother used to go there when they had a housekeeper living in there all the time, like this lady who's living in there all the time. But when she passed away, or went too old, I think, they thought they could do with just having a cleaner and a gardener. And my mother was approached through my grandfather. The reason for that again was that the Boddingtons had a pony, and they had a field attached to Dolmai Salo then, where now the estate is, isn't it? And just call it Dolfach. And they kept their pony there, so they were well in with my grandfather. And they asked, like, did he know of anybody they could ask to keep an eye on the house and be a cleaner? They had already found a gardener. So my mother went there. So really, as a child, I used to go there, and I used to love going there because they had 5 daughters, grown up by then, of course, like, but they didn't come down so much. But we knew them all as Miss Anne, Miss Mary, Miss Elizabeth, Miss Jane, this type of thing. There's always a Miss in front of them. But there was beautiful books in a bookstand in one of the bedrooms, and they were beautiful children's books and all that, hardback books, and of course we could look through those when Mum used to do the cleaning. My sister and I go down and we'd sit in the back bedroom and we'd go through in these beautiful books, like, it was lovely. So then as we get older, like, we used to help Mum and all that, and we used to we remember going out into the garden, to the garden, and asking him, could we have some flowers to put, because Mrs. and Mrs. Boddington were coming down, could we have some flowers to put? So he used to give us little flowers, and I can remember one little mauve glass vase, tiny little bowl type. It was only a small one. And the funny part of it was, like, when the Boddingtons gave up Dolmai Salo, I had that little bowl. They gave it to me, yes, but it broke it. Oh. But it was lovely. It wasn't a big value, I don't think, but because, like, you know, I'd been filling that with flowers for them. But it's funny, like, so I lived on my Salo, like,
and that's
like
that's
that.
where we live
Yes,
now,
and
and have done for about 35 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So, Gwen, and what drew you back to this specific area in Wales?
Well, of course, my family was still in the family home, and my mother was here, and my grandfather was alive until 1977. So, and it was like a little colony round where I was brought up, because all the great aunts lived round there as well. So we used to go from one house to the other, and they'd lived to a good old age, so they were all here when we came back. And the reason we came to Penrhyn Coch really was we were just looking for a house that was suitable to start a family in, because by then I was expecting my first child. And we got married in the chapel in Bow Street, so it's all very localised really. And now we've settled in Penrhyn Coch. I think there are some people who still think we're incomers, but but we could try and get involved in the community life. I'm on the hall committee as well, and just try and generally, keep busy.
And Edwina, what made you want to stay here and not, like, move to Wembley or anything?
Never crossed my mind. I don't think, no. You know, we were quite happy, and Sid was, because Sid had to lodge away with his work a lot, so I suppose, like, I felt that this then was a base, and my parents were there. My father died in 1972. They lived in the old family home, but the house wasn't left to my mother, which was a great shock. And so it's a lonely little spot in a way. Well, it's outside the village, and she was a young person. She was only in her 50s when my father passed away. And so she stayed there for over a year, and then suddenly she said, I can't stay here for another winter on my own. So my husband told her, like, well, do you want to come and live with us? And she said no, and she wouldn't go to live with my sister, who was by now married and living in Penrhyn Coch. And she said, no, I want my own front door. I didn't know what to do. So in the end, she bought one of these chalets. It's like a static caravan, but it's more like a chalet. And if you go out here and look in my garden on the way out, you'll see it there, because my husband gave her a part of our garden here, and this static caravan, it's more like a rough casted chalet really. and she came to live there in 1974, and she only passed away last year
Oh wow.
when she was 98.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, she was 6 days short of her 98th birthday. So really, like, I had my mother round here, like, isn't it? I wasn't a carer or anything for my mother. She was quite able until the last few years. But I suppose, like, being Sid was away, I felt I had security from my own parents, which I think you do, don't you, you know, and I never wanted to go. And I do like my community, and I'll be honest, I've worked a lot in the community, and I've been very, very involved in a lot of things here. And we've lost our school now, but when my children when Sian was about 10, Ruth would be 7, they wanted to close Treverick School. And because the numbers had gone down, there was only 11 children here. And we fought very hard, and with the help of other people outside as well, we managed to keep it open. Although they reckoned it was through the back door, we were very lucky in that we had the help of our MP, which he's asked us not to name him at the time, and he found a loophole somewhere that we could work on, and we managed to keep the school open. And then the school remained open until 2000.
Oh gosh,
2000
I can
and
remember
what?
when
2000
it
and
closed,
what
but
it was, 7 or 8? Is it 10 years? I don't know. No,
Must be
yes,
about
round
10
about.
years, yeah.
Oh no, I don't think it's quite as much as that. No. 2011, 2012 maybe. Was it?
Yeah, maybe,
Yes.
maybe.
Well, the school did close then because the numbers went down again. Because when we fought, the funny part was a family came to live here, and they fostered children. They were from London. They'd come down here and foster children, and the school numbers doubled in the following week. So there were 22 instead of 11 here. Because they had 11 foster children. And gradually the numbers stayed up then until the latter years again, where the numbers went down, and Ceredigion wanted to close all little small primary schools. So we managed to, we fought very hard thinking that we could keep the school as a community centre, because it had been our community centre. We held pantomimes there at Christmas, we had concerts there, we had the Urdd there, which is the Welsh Youth Society. We had a show every year through the community, and then we started a children's group. Yeah, I started a children's group at one time, but that gradually finished. Then we had a little retirement group, as we called it, a friendly retirement group here. And we met at the school here, and then even after it closed, because they wanted it back, we wanted to buy it because we said it had been given by, the community had built it back in 1868, I think, something like that. And the money had been raised by the local people and the ground had been given by a farmer from outside. But we lost the battle, and they took it back, and it laid empty until about 2 years ago, when a young couple bought it, and it deteriorated. But we had to get out of there before that. So our little retirement group gradually dwindled. We met here in my house and in another friend's house every other week for a while. And then, of course, we couldn't get any more younger people to come in to join us. So gradually we lost some of our members. We went down to 3 here in the house in the end. So we had to give up. But, I was involved, as you said, like with the show and the community. Took part in the pantomimes. Was in my glory, because I don't like speaking publicly. I wouldn't like to go and give a talk in front of, or a lecture or anything in front of anybody. But if I dress up, I make anything of myself. I'll make it for my Gwenna knows that with his nursery school.
Oh yes, you did. Used to enjoy dressing up. I remember in the lifeboat station and the fire station. She put all the gear on.
I was the fool that had to do it.
No, I think you really enjoyed it.
Yes, I did. So, yes.
That's lovely. Yeah. So would you say that, you know, family and community is a big part of why you stayed in the
Oh
area?
yes, it is, definitely. Yeah. Although my 2 daughters have had to go away to find work and home, like in it, you know, like as Gwenna said, I'm lucky, they're not too far away. One lives down in Cardigan. She's the headmistress at 2 schools down there. Then Ruth lives up at Corris, which is just the other side of Machynlleth. So I see Ruth. Ruth trained as a silversmith and a jeweller, but when her children came along, like it was because she lives in Ameling part of it, on silver, like, and because with the children she couldn't manage to do that, like, because it's very concentrated work. So she started to take interest as well in her community up there, went to work in her nursery school up there. She remembers me going out, and so she thought she'd do it up there. And gradually she's gone in, and she's now travels every day up to nearly Porthmadog. She's not a teacher, she hasn't got a teacher, but she does look after very handicapped children on a one-to-one basis and a special school there. So she's there.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yes.
Yeah. See this? Do you have any, you know, interesting facts about your lives?
Well, the fact I was conceived in Bolivia, not that I had much to do with that. I don't know. I can't. You've thrown that at us.
Yes, that's
We're
very awkward
prepared
one.
for that.
Yeah, that is. I don't think of myself as being anything special or anything like
Oh
that.
no,
So, you know what I mean?
not,
That's,
I don't.
I can't think of any particular facts like that. No.
You mentioned the 5 generations thing at the arts, correct?
Oh yes. I'd be very lucky to the 5 generation twice in my lifetime. I have got photos that I might be able to show you later. One I think is behind me here, where I'm sitting up on the top there, like over the last one, where my mother was the eldest there, and she was the great grandmother. I'm the great grandmother. My daughter Sian is the grandmother, and her daughter Hannah is the mother. But in that photo there, it's Jack, Hannah's eldest boy, who was the first 5. But then 2 years later, Layla came along. So we were 5 generations of girls, like.
Yeah.
So they did do a programme on us on the television, Songs of Praise. It was for Mothering Sunday, so we had that done here when Layla was not many weeks old. So that was lovely having that done here. But and then the first one is when I was the mother. It's when Sian was a baby, like who was Jack's grandmother now, like, isn't it? When Sian was a baby, we were 5 generations then on my mother's side as well. But my mother's father was in then, like he was the grandfather. So yes.
Wow, that was very impressive.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Mum was very proud of that as well, that we had the college, you know, yes. And so being with the children, I don't know with you, Gwen, and with your grandchildren, it's very awkward with 5 generations. What did you call her, the grandmothers?
Yeah.
to
yes,
distinguish between them. So there was Sian is Mungi, which is grandmother in Welsh, isn't it? But of course if you're in North Wales it'd be 9. But in South Wales it's Mangi. And I must say this, we haven't gone to this Nana and Nan, myself, in our family. We've kept to the Mungi. So Sian was the Mungi. I'm Mungi Davis, and my mother was Mungi Nantlais, because the name of her little chalet was Nantlais, which is the sound of the brook. And so it was Mungi Nantlais, Mungi Davis, and Mungi for Sian, like in Cardigan. So that's how we we are known.
And I'm Mungee.
You're Mungee as well.
But
Good.
my mother, although she's Mungee to my boys, she was 9 to the
Oh,
granddaughters.
good. Yes.
Because
Yes.
try and cut a long story short, my niece is deaf, so when she was born, she had her father's mother was Mungee, so they thought it would be easier for her to understand if my mother was called Nine, so that they weren't both Mungee.
Yeah.
I mean, with hindsight, they say it doesn't make any difference,
Yeah, but
and
it
Sarah
could have
now
been.
is.
Yeah.
She's done so well, she certainly wouldn't have made
No,
any difference to her.
No,
but,
no.
Yeah, she's a psychologist down in Cardiff, so working with deaf children and families.
Yes. She's marvellous, she was.
Yeah,
A lovely little
so-
girl.
So is it important for you to teach Welsh to your kids and grandchildren then?
Yes, and both my
Definitely.
granddaughters go to Welsh schools down in Cardiff, and well, little Benjamin, we're having trouble getting him to speak at all at the moment with anything. So I don't know, but yes, he will be having Welsh because
But remember you've seen that now, we had a little boy in the Scovathrin, do you remember him? He wouldn't say a word to us. We
Yes.
couldn't get a word out. And he, as if he couldn't get his words out, you know. And but I don't think you could stop him talking now.
no,
When he grew
no,
up.
so no, he's young
No.
yet, so
Yes,
and
it's
he's
funny,
a happy
isn't it?
little boy.
Oh,
so-
yes. It's funny, like.
Yeah. But going back to when you say about spending time, I do like to travel as much as I can as well.
Oh.
So yeah, we just come back from a week in Seville and Malaga, just with my sister, and went to France earlier this year. So
Did you do anything nice for your honeymoon?
well, you laugh. We went to Talyllyn, which is not far up the road actually. So no, we didn't go very far for our honeymoon.
Lovely.
But
Abergynolwyn.
yeah,
Abergynolwyn.
yeah.
A nice area.
But no, you had a more interesting honeymoon. You'll have to tell that story.
Well, it was a belated honeymoon, really, because I got married in the March. And we had one night, we went on the wedding night, we went down to Ludlow. We stayed in Ludlow
Very nice.
because Sid had already booked our honeymoon for June to the Isle of Man, to the TT races, because he was very, very keen motorcyclist then and mad on the TT races and, well, any type of motorbike racing really, but the road racing at the Isle of Man was his, what do you call it, and I must say I thoroughly enjoyed that week. It was really lovely.
Yeah. So
Yes.
would you say you're a fan of motorbike racing as well?
Sorry?
Would you say you're a fan of motorbike racing?
Well, yes, I used to write when I had a television. I don't have a television now. When my husband was alive, like, and we watched it, I would rather watch the motorcycle racing than the car racing, like, you know. Yeah. Oh yes.
Would you have ever hopped on a motorbike yourself? Sidecar?
I have been on a motorbike, but Sid had promised his mother that if ever he got married, that he would give up motorbikes. It wasn't right, because he had nearly lost his life on the road going to work, because I think he was a bit of a madman on the road with his motorbike when he was young, and he had very nearly lost his life, like by running into a flock of sheep on the road. Braked, of course, thinking avoid, never thought of the consequence, and he went down the road after the bike, I think, for a while. so yeah, and he did. He kept that promise. So when I married, like I said, hadn't got a motorbike. He'd already sold it. But anyway, but you know, if there was a motorbike show or anything on, anyway, we were there.
That's nice. So are you-
Yeah, and I tell you what, I have got recordings. I think it's from 1959 to about 1962 or 3. Commentary on the road racing at Isle of Man on long players, and I can't. That's one of the things, you know. They tell you, is there anything you could never give away, like a book? Is there one you never lend anybody? Well, that's one thing I wouldn't lend anybody, because they bring back very happy memories of me not just on my honeymoon, but on my husband as well.
That's lovely. Yeah.
I still got his helmet downstairs as well.
Oh,
Yes,
very
his
cool.
motorcycle helmet.
And, do you and your husband share anything like that, Gwennon?
No, I can't say that. Though Dave did have a motorbike for a while, but it was just for getting to work and back. But I was always terrified of it.
Canal race, you did.
Oh,
on the-
canal,
you
we
had your
still-
boat
yes,
and
we
you
did
had a
have a
boat
narrow
and the
boat, I'd
boat and the
forgotten
canal.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a narrowboat on the Shropshire Union,
Wow.
50-foot narrowboats, and it was like great when the boys were younger and they used to really enjoy. But once they'd grown up and had to go to work or
just
college
it,
and
innit?
whatever,
Yeah.
it just wasn't viable. But no, we had a lot of fun and on the Llangollen Canal and went over the Pont Cysylltu Aqueduct, which was quite terrifying.
Mm.
But
And
yeah,
you
it was-
took up doing the canal painting, didn't you, as well?
the barge painting.
Yeah,
yes.
the barge painting, because I've got a plate or something.
Oh,
that
have you really?
Yes, you did. You gave me a lovely plate on one of my birthdays.
Yes. No,
Yeah.
I used to enjoy doing that and bit of fishing on the canals. My son still likes going fishing. So, yeah, I'd forgotten that bit.
Hmm.
Yeah. Do you have any closing memories you'd like to share? Anything about the area, or like any more thoughts on why you've decided to stay here? Or
Well, I just...
What
I
I
don't
like
know.
is the peace and quiet of
Yes.
the area. It hasn't sort of, especially up here, Penrhyn might be, it's got more modernised because there's a lot of houses and it's altered
Yes,
a lot
I
since
mean,
you
we've-
first
we've-
came there.
Oh, it
isn't
has. It has. And we were very lucky, really, because the house we've got, although it's in the middle of the village, is quite private.
Yeah.
It's got a garden going down to the stream, but you wouldn't know, really, that there's an estate each
No.
side of us.
No.
But I'll show you when we go back.
And that's what I like here, like, you know, they said we were outside what they call the green belt, so they weren't very keen on building up here, like a lot of people were refused. There are some new houses being built here, but it's individual houses. They don't seem to allow estates yet up to now, like, you know, which in a way
They
is
don't.
nice. The only thing is with us here now, there was a film done quite a few years ago now, about 10 years ago, by a local fellow called, it was when the school was closing really, Gideon Coppell. His parents were of German origin, but Gideon was brought up here in Comervyn, and his brothers and sisters. And he did it thinking, like, you know, although it's called Sleep Furiously, it shows how the area was sort of gradually dying away, you know. But then you had hope again at the end of the film, like, you know, that no, it isn't going to die. People will still keep it going. And we have, like, you know, the way of life obviously has altered here, but it is nice, like, that we haven't...
It's a lovely film because it really gives you the sense of community.
Yes,
doesn't it?
that's what I'm saying. And that's one thing about this area. Penrhyn Coch, the community in Penrhyn Coch, even as when I was a child, was split community. It was chapel and church, you and us. But Trevirig has never been like that, this village. Although we have 5 little villages around, like, you know, but they're only little hamlets, really. They're not villages. But there's always been a sense of close community here, and everybody would pull together, which you didn't have in Penrhyn Coch. And it's still a bit now.
It's still a bit like
isn't
that.
it, now?
And maybe more so now because a lot of the people who come and live on the estates, they don't get involved in community life.
No,
It's just,
they don't, no.
you know.
And of course what we've done, we've lost the school. We've lost our community centre because we've got no chapel or anything in the village, you see, in this village, the main village. And the chapels around the area, most of them have closed. There's one open up in Comervyn. But this was the hub, like was the school, which was a community centre as well. Things were held there. And now always had been since my parents were alive, like, in it, you know. And when they were children, going to school there themselves, because they were from this area as well, both of them. So Mum can remember Salem Chapel, as they said. They had their yearly social down here, and they would also have something on Boxing Night, but at Treviri School, so they would pull the community together.
You're saying that, I can always remember going to the chapel in Bow Street
Yeah.
for the Eisteddfod, and we always used to have it on Christmas night.
That's right, yes.
Which is yeah, we used to go down as children,
Yes.
and yeah,
Dewi Morgan was had a lot
Yeah.
to do that. Yes.
it
Quite
was
right.
no, it was a thriving
Yes.
little Eisteddfod,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
But
but
we-
that was another part of the childhood was of course the Sundays you had morning chapel and Sunday school, and we used to walk there,
Yeah, yeah,
and you didn't have much choice in the matter, so
No.
you know.
you're quite right. But we haven't, as I'm saying, we haven't got a chapel or church here. Everybody had to go out, like, in it, you know.
Mm.
And I joined the church when I married, like, because my husband was a churchman, and he used to go to church at home, like, in Radnorshire. So that's when I was confirmed, like, on the Friday after I got married. And I'll always remember that. And of course I brought the children up in the church and got very involved with it. But I'm going back to this area again. Like you see, we've lost our bus service. We haven't got a shop. You know what I mean?
post
We've lost the
office,
school. Everything has gone. You know, we lost everything, which is a pity, really.
Yeah.
And the playing field here was put up because the people that lived at the post office, she gave that field. She hadn't had children herself, and she gave that field for the use of children, for anything. And in the end, it was the community council who took it over because her brothers wanted to build houses on it. And of course, like, this loophole was found, and the community council bought the field, and then they did it into a little playing area for this area. But of course, there's not a lot of children here because we've lost the school and all that, you know. But they still go there to play, a lot of them. And my great-grandchildren love it when they
Yeah,
come.
they do.
Yes.
No, the other beauty of living around here is you've got, not only have you got the hills and the mountains
yes.
and
And
the lakes, but you've got the beach, and I am a beach person. I just, as soon as I can, I'll go to the beach. I spent, this summer was brilliant on the beach. I don't know when I went last into the sea so many times. It was perfect. And in fact, I was down in Ennislaus with my grandson yesterday.
Lovely.
Not swimming, but
Oh, that's lovely.
yeah, no, it is a
Yes.
beautiful area. We've
Yeah.
got the best of everything, I think.
Yeah, because
really.
if I only walk up the hill
Yeah.
there, like, I can see the sea. Down in Clarish, you know, you can see the sea, like, you know, as you said, like, we've got the mountains, we've got the valleys, and we've got the sea, like, in front of us, which is nice, yeah.
It's really nice, yeah. Shall we take recording of photos and talking about items?
Yes,
Yeah?
it's up to you.
Yeah.
Where should we do that?
Do you want to do them separately?
Do you want to see the photographs first, so you can choose out, we can talk about what you want to see, and then we can
We could, whatever, we can
Well,
you know,
what?
do it right off the cuff, you know, just record it as
Yeah.
as of, you know, you
We'll
can
have
point
to
out
see